This tier, to me, Super Bowl favorites, is going to start with the Vikings at 4. Look, I said it from the start of this video, and if you're watching the clips of this, I said it with the earlier teams. One of the most undervalued and underappreciated things in the NFL is a coaching staff. The Vikings shut everyone else up who have these really good rosters or not even really good rosters, just fine rosters, maybe developmental rosters. Some of those teams at the bottom of your power rankings or whatever, they make them all look stupid because they didn't focus on the most important thing, which was getting a coaching staff, getting a head coach, an offensive coordinator, and a defensive coordinator. You can get, I can't tell you the name of the Vikings offensive coordinator. It might as well be Kevin O'Connell. Defensive coordinator is Brian Flores. So you get two really good coordinators on offense that can kind of complement each other, right? That is one of the most important things you can do as a franchise. Now for the Vikings, they have that. And then you look at the roster. They have a good roster. They have a talented roster for sure. Let's go to the offense. I want to talk about Sam Darnold for a little bit. This is what happens when you go from the Jets, is historically one of the worst run organizations on the history of the planet, and then you go to an actual run organization run by real men that know what they're doing, and not just a party of idiots. Sorry to just keep throwing shade at the Jets, but they drive me up a wall. I don't know how you can be a Jets fan. I don't want to crap on Jets fans. If you're a Jets fan, I'm not trying to direct all this hate towards you. I just could never be a Jets fan. I would have left that franchise. I'm not a bandwagon or anything. But there are points that a franchise gets to where it's okay to leave. I would have left this year. I would have left a while ago, but this year would have definitely drove the nail in the coffin. Back to the Vikings, though. Again, this is what happens when you leave a team like the Jets and get around a good coaching staff. Sam Darnold has totally flipped the script on his career. Now, what the Vikings do with him is kind of dependent on what the postseason looks like. If they go to the NFC Championship or the Super Bowl, you have to sign him again. The only way you don't re-sign Sam Darnold to either a contract extension, like a really big contract extension of some sorts, is if he takes a total crap in the bed in the playoffs. Just absolutely fumbles the bag in the playoffs. Week 1 or week 2 or something, he's the reason you lost. That's the only reason you don't. Other than that, he is going to get a contract extension. It will likely be from the Vikings. If not, it will be someone else that needs a quarterback that will pay him $40 to $50 million a year. That's the reality we're in. Sam Darnold isn't just a product of playing in a good system with really good players as well. He's also just playing really well himself. We forget Sam Darnold was a very talented prospect coming out of college, and here he is, making really talented plays. He's had his ups and downs this year, for sure, but it's been a lot more ups, and he's been the reason for a lot of wins. So he needs his respect. Look at this receiving corps. Justin Jefferson, best receiver in the league. Jordan Addison's truly emerged as a number 2 receiver. TJ Hawkinson's, he's been injured a lot of the season, but he's TJ Hawkinson. He's one of the best tight ends in the league. Offensive line's been great. The system that they play in, because Christian Darrisaw has been injured, so that's made it tough. But the offensive system that they play in can cover up for some injuries on the offensive line as well. Kind of like I was mentioning with the 49ers a bit. Now onto the defense. You get a good group of guys like this together. Really solid guys like Van Ginkel and Blake Cashman and Harrison Phillips and Jonathan Grenard. And these guys that have been solid to good, few great moments in their career. And then you fill that defensive roster out with those kinds of guys, and then give Brian Flores that group. That's what's gone on with the Vikings here, and it's one of the most prolific defenses we've seen in a while. Started the year off a little bit stronger than they've been finishing, but it's still a fantastic defense, and it's still a defense that has very strongly carried this team, not carried, but has helped and contributed this team to making a very strong impact, I'm assuming, in the playoffs. The Vikings just do so many things the right way. Ideally, there's 100 Kevin O'Connells running around the NFL that can work with young quarterbacks, because that's the absolute dream, is to be a young quarterback that gets to work with Kevin O'Connell and get to be a part of the Vikings and everything right now. So how can you not like what the Vikings have done and how they've kind of, turned themselves around a good bit this season? And, the only real thing that's keeping them from being at the top here is we got to see Sam Darnold in the playoffs and see how he does. And I'm not here to doubt him at all. I was high on him going into the season. I didn't expect this, and I didn't expect this kind of success from the Vikings. But there's still a little bit of doubt left to be for the big moments in the playoffs with him. He's never experienced that, really. So that's what's keeping them at 4 and probably not higher. Regardless of that, though, there's just 3 other teams that are really good. And the next one we're going to talk about is the Lions. And the thing with the Lions, I got to get some water. The thing with the Lions is they've been my number 1 team for a good bit of the season now. The reason that they're number 3 now isn't because they lost to the Bills. They could have lost to the Bills, and I would have kept them at 1. It was a close game. The reason they're at 1 is the injuries, unfortunately. I'm pretty sure, the most injured team in the league right now. And it's going to be absolutely devastating if this turnaround and this team that's been playing better than literally everyone else majority of this season gets squashed in the playoffs week 1, or first game of the playoffs or second game of the playoffs because of injuries. It's going to be so devastating. And I really hope that doesn't happen. Now, I think they have the troops to avoid that. I think they have the coaching staff to avoid that. But it still scares me a bit. And you'd really like to see them get a few of these guys back before the postseason kicks in. Even if they lose the rest of the regular season games. That would be fine. They're going to need some health to come back. But here's the thing. Let's talk about the positives with them. Offensive line is, I'm going to say, the best in the league. It's with, between the Eagles and them, best in the league. I think you're kind of, you're cutting hairs at that point. They're really elite offensive lines. Running back room, let's talk about the healthy version of the Lions in some manner. David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs has been... It's what a lot of teams are trying to achieve this year now. And it's been so lethal. It's been so dangerous having this 1-2 punch. And we all laughed, me included, laughed at the Lions for taking Jahmyr Gibbs in the first round at 12 to last year's draft. Last year's, because this last season was Terrion Arnold, but the year before that was Jahmyr Gibbs. We all laughed at them for that. We owe Campbell and Brad Holmes a huge apology. He is electric. He is easily one of the best running backs in the league right now, and he contributes so much to this offense, even with David Montgomery and when David Montgomery is playing. And David Montgomery is a kick-ass running back, by the way. The complementary of having them both has been lethal as well. And the fact that they have an amazing offensive line. Jared Goff has completely turned his career around also. He made a strong MVP case for this season up until he threw 4 or 5 interceptions in that one game. I think that kind of dialed him back a good bit. If he didn't have a game like that, I think he's at least top 2 in MVP odds. Which is tough, but I don't think he cares as much about that because he's back to playing like Jared Goff and back to playing really good, sound football. He can win a Super Bowl with this team. Onto the defense, D-line. Not going to include Aiden Hutchinson because he was out too early, but you get Lee McNeil in there. I don't know if he's going to be there for the postseason. I really hope so. Lee McNeil, Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, Carlton Davis, Terrion Arnold's had his lumps, but he's been good for them still. Alex Anzalone, Jack Campbell's been playing awesome. So much good about this defense. The story with the Lions, again, is going to come down with, are these injuries going to crush them or not? Can they face this adversity? What team in the league do you think faces adversity best? It's the Lions. I think they can handle it. It still worries me, but I think they can handle it. We're wrapping up pretty soon here. Got 2 teams left. The next team I have, this is the number 2 team, the Eagles here. At number 2 in the entirety of the NFL. The Eagles, story with them is Saquon Barkley. This is what we all hoped and dreamed we could see for Saquon Barkley at some point in his NFL career. Stick him behind a good offensive line with some other weapons and a quarterback and just watch the magic happen. We watched Saquon Barkley turn the narrative around running backs completely on its head this season. Along with, other players that I've been talking about, like Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery and Josh Jacobs and everything. But the one heading the charge is Saquon, okay? And we are seeing him in the perfect situation for him to succeed. But he's doing what he's supposed to with this team that he's on. He's producing, and he's being a great benefit and leading the charge for this offense. He is absolutely electric. I said in another video, he's probably one of the most athletic players this league has seen this decade. Most talented athletes is kind of what I'll say. It's so phenomenal watching him go to work with a team like this. Now, talking about the rest of the team, offensive line, like I said, one of the other best in the league. Jalen Hurts, I'm not incredibly high on as other people are. I've had some negative things to say about him. But one thing I do know about him is that if he has A.J. Brown and he has Devontae Smith and the offensive line's working and there's a run game, there's absolutely nothing wrong with having him at quarterback. So this team's scary, completely scary in offense. Dallas Goedert in there too. He's not playing quite as well as he was in the past, but still a really good tight end. On the defensive line's full of depth. Jalen Carter's a beast. Jordan Davis. Secondary. What was their biggest issue last year? Cornerback, right? What did they address in the draft? Cornerback. What's their best thing on defense now? It's their cornerback room. Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell are why they're as good as they are. I mean, it's those two and Saquon Barkley. Why they were able to flip the script from last season. So you have that and just an overall really polished roster. Here's where I get a little bit down on the Eagles. I still don't believe in Nick Sirianni. I think the Eagles are winning despite Nick Sirianni. I don't think he's necessarily improving the team a whole bunch. I think this roster is one, I just talked about the Vikings and how important a coaching staff is. First of all, the coordinators on the Eagles right now, very good, very good. The other thing is this roster is so good and so talented, they can play above what Nick Sirianni has to offer. Because other than that, there's not a lot of weaknesses on this Eagles team. Nick Sirianni is the weakness on this team. And it's going to be some of his game management that has me worried at times. Some of his, whatever decisions he makes late in the game in the postseason that would have me a bit worried. But that's about it. On to the number 1 team in the NFL right now. I have the Buffalo Bills. And the thing with the Buffalo Bills is, to me, this is the hot team. Not as much as it's the best roster and the best coach. They have way less injuries, so we'll do some comparison here against the other teams. When it comes to the Vikings, I think they're over them because they have the better quarterback. When it comes to the Lions, they're better than them because they're healthy. When it comes to the Eagles, they're better than them because basically everything I just said, and then also coach is better. Is the offensive line as good as the Eagles? No, the Bills' offensive line isn't. Is their defense as good as the Vikings? No, not really. Quarterback's better than anyone else on that list for sure. Josh Allen's playing like an MVP. He's playing like the number one quarterback in the league at this moment. Receiving core isn't as good, but that doesn't seem to matter, and it hasn't mattered this season because on paper the receiving core isn't good, but their system doesn't need, the system that they're using right now doesn't need 3 top 10 receivers to be a part of this league. They need a few solid guys like Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman to just do their job, and that's been good enough. Now, I was talking a little bit negative about this offense. I didn't mean it negatively. It was just a comparison to the other top 4 teams in the league. But you look at the offensive line, good offensive line for sure. Receiving core, including Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, really good, especially with the play style they have. Quarterback, like I said, best quarterback in the league at the moment. Move to the defense. The defense has been playing up. The defense has been playing better. Gregory Rousseau's been breaking out like crazy. Cornerback room's really broken out. Christian Benford has been fantastic. Teron Johnson's still playing really well. They still have a really solid defensive line on the interior as well. Linebacking core, Matt Milano. So the thing with the Bills, like I said at the start when talking about them, they are the hot ones right now, and they've been hot the whole season. But coming off a win against the Lions was a big deal for them. And listen, I mentioned the injuries and stuff. I know you can say the injuries were, maybe a piece of that win or whatever. I get it. But guess what? We're really close to the postseason, and I don't know how many more Lions players we're getting back healthy. So, as far as I know, they beat the postseason Lions. If they were to play the Eagles today, I think they could win. And I don't think there's a reason I have them at 1. I don't think it's that they have a chance. I think the Eagles are the ones that would need to have a chance against them. This is a really hot team that's really good right now. Josh Allen is playing better than I believe Jalen Hurts would in that matchup, which is another one of the main differences. We're going quarterback for quarterback here. I don't think there's another quarterback in the league playing better than Josh Allen. Woo! Okay. So that was like 5 hours of recording probably. Thank you for watching. If you watch this whole video, you're a saint. I doubt anyone did that. I'm going to be posting this into clips team by team, so you can just watch your team on YouTube. Thank you for watching.